Hi, I'm Barry from Power Equipment Discounters. Today we're going to show you how to sharpen a chainsaw chain using Husqvarna's patented chain sharpening guide, a depth gauge, a flat file and a round file. Now this can be purchased from any Husqvarna dealer and they retail for approximately $37 to $40. The first thing to make sure when you're sharpening your chain is that you've got the right filing guide for the right pitch of chain. Most of Husqvarna's filing guides have the pitch on the bottom side of the filing guide. Over here you can see it says 0.325, so that's 325 pitch, and this is a 325 pitch chain. The first thing to do is to mark the chain where you start sharpening. So we're going to be sharpening, first of all the teeth going to the one side over here on the right, and we're going to make note of which chain tooth we start with. That's really important so you don't end up sharpening a tooth more than once. Make sure your chain breaks off and you should be able to pull that chain gently through with your hand. So we take the filing guide and we place it directly over the tooth, so the tooth is sitting in the middle of that chain guide over there. And then over here we've got our file. Make sure you have the right size file as well for the right size chain. There are 3 different types of file with Husqvarna: 4mm, 4.8 and 5mm. This is a 4.8mm file for a 325 pitch chain. Always file away from you, never towards you, and most of the time it's only 3 strokes per tooth. Unless your chain is really blunt, then you can go to 5 or 6. Basically you line up the file with the rollers on a 30-degree angle and you gently push the file away from you 3 times. Make sure that you try to keep that angle. The great thing about the Husqvarna chain sharpening guide is if you go off that 30-degree angle, the file will move away and out of the chain tooth. So once again, it's just straight through like that. 3 files. Take the guide off, pull the chain through. Now you'll note that the next tooth is on the opposite angle, so you won't be able to sharpen that tooth. We'll do that from the other side. So we skip a tooth, go to the next one, pop it in the middle, and once again three even strokes away. Moving on to the second tooth again. That one slipped, so we'll do it again. You want to make sure that both those rollers, the front and the back one, are moving when you're sharpening that chain, and there'll be a nice edge on that chain. To go from the other side, we just turn the saw around. Remember to put the guide back over. And same thing, always away from you, never towards you. And that's how easy it is to sharpen the cutting tooth of your chain. The next tooth to check is the raker. Basically a chain tooth consists of your cutting tooth and the raker, which is the small tooth in front of the cutting tooth. I'll turn the saw around so you can get a better view there from the other side. The raker's job is to determine how much timber is actually going to be cut with the cutting tooth. Now remember, the chain is spinning very fast, about 12,000 revolutions per minute, so the tooth is actually only taking off a really small portion of the timber. This that I have in my hand is a depth gauge. Once again, like the files, you get different depth gauges for different pitches. This is a 325 depth gauge. Now you'll also notice that a depth gauge has a soft and a hard marking. That's for your timber types, because if you have softer timber, you can take the raker down a bit more. With harder timber, we leave the raker up a bit more so that less is taken off at a time, which makes it easier to cut with. You don't need to do the rakers every time because the cutting tooth is on an angle sloping backwards. As you're filing it backwards, the raker will become higher relative to the cutting tooth. So what we want to make sure about every 3rd or 4th sharpen is we just check those rakers and make sure that they are below the cutting tooth, because what will happen is as you're sharpening your cutting tooth back, it'll eventually get lower than your raker, and all that'll happen is the timber will jump over the cutting tooth and then the saw won't cut properly. To sharpen your rakers, we need to change our files. You need to go to a flat file. They make them in a 6 and an 8 inch. I'm going to be using the 6-inch file today. It's the length of the file is 6 inches, and you'll notice that it's a flat file and it's very fine. It's not a coarse file, a very fine metal file. With the Husqvarna handle, it's very easy to change your file. You just push the tab in and the handle slides right out. The file slides right out. We put the new file in over there. Sure it's nice and firm. So the way the depth gauge works is you butt up the depth gauge against the back of the cutting tooth, and then you'll notice that the raker will start to stick through. Now on this chain over here, because it's a relatively new chain, the raker hasn't come through. All that you're doing is simply taking the flat file and just filing over the top of that raker. You don't need to do it from different sides for the raker. You can do it all from the same side. And once again, just over the top, making sure that you're keeping that raker below the cutting tooth. And once again, so this is a quick method to do your rakers. You don't, like I said, you don't have to do it every time you sharpen. Once every 3 sharpens, it's a good idea to check in on your rakers. And that's how to sharpen a chain. For more information on the products we sell, don't forget to visit our website, powerequipmentdiscounters.com.au. And to keep abreast of the new videos we upload, don't forget to click subscribe.